sun is shining, not a cloud in the sky. What a beautiful day. The birds are singing and so am I. What a beautiful day. I'd like to keep this moment for the rest of my life, but I know there'll always be a little toil and strife. What a beautiful day, such a beautiful day. Hey, all you guilty knitters. Welcome to the Guilty Knitter podcast. I'm Vivian from Montreal, Canada, and I'll be your host. And I created this place for you to come and forget about your troubles and all the chores and errands that you're supposed to run today, and just sit down and knit and on your current project. Make some headway while you're listening to me talk about my current projects and what I'm going to be knitting in the future. And also, I have a basket of mending that I want to talk about. When is it useful to mend your knits? Is it really something we should be doing, or should we spend all our time knitting new things? I don't know. It sometimes feels like such a drag to have to mend things, but then again, how much time did you spend doing them in the first place? So this is what you have to figure out. What's the best thing? If you're trying to find me on Instagram, I am at Guilty Knitter, and on Ravelry, I'm the Guilty Knitter, all one word. And on Twitter, which I'm hardly ever there, but if you can find me as OSMVIV. That stands for Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. OSM is my job. I play trombone in the orchestra. In fact, this is my final season doing that. I'm about to retire. And it's a weird time to retire because of the pandemic and everything, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to say goodbye and start a new chapter of my life. But I'll talk about that some other time. Anyway. Other things to forget are things like the pandemic. Although, obviously for a lot of people, they can't forget about it because they're either suffering from the disease, or they're combating it in hospitals, or they're have relatives who have died of it. Or, it's something that for most of us who, have not had such close brushes with the disease, it's just a total drag and a disruption to our lives. But obviously we have to. We're all in it together. We're all coping, and I hope that with the if we're wearing masks and trying to stay apart from people for now, then maybe it will get better. So hang in there. Meanwhile, let's sit and knit for a bit. That's Arnie and Carlos. I didn't just steal that. No. Anyway, you're probably wondering, if you aren't, I'm going to tell you anyway, that I'm wearing this crazy vest that I made 5 years ago, or 6 or 7, I don't know. When I got back into knitting about 7 years ago now, just before Christmas, I thought, oh, I should knit again. I should knit some cowls and hats and stuff. So I bought a bunch of this really thick yarn by Cascade. I think it's called Maxima or something like that. I'll have to write it down. And also the name of this pattern, which I forget now. But it's a super simple, just a big square that you create these armholes at the side, and then you have this strange lapel thing. Anyway, it's been in my closet in a shelf for 5 years, and I just decided to try to pull things out that I'm not wearing so much, and see whether I need to get rid of them or what. And this was one of the first things I pulled out, and I thought to myself, well, I have 3 options. Either I frog it, or give it away, or I wear it. Those are the 3 options, right? So I thought, well, I'll try it on, and I tried it on for a day, and lo and behold, my husband commented on my outfit, gave me a compliment on my outfit, which he rarely does, to be frank, especially when I'm just hanging around the house in my sweats, like I have been for months, right? So I was kind of, I thought, well, I guess maybe it's worth keeping. So here I have it on just for fun. It is quite cozy, although, you know, I always need a sweater. I need a real sweater most of the time, but this is kind of helpful too. It's quite cozy. So I think I'll keep it for now. The other thing with this yarn is it pills like crazy. That was another thing that I wasn't too crazy about because I started pilling like before I finished knitting it, right? It's that one ply, really thick yarn. It just pills like crazy. So anyway, oh, and the other thing I want to show you is my new earrings, which are pretty cool, right? Little knitting balls of yarn with needles, in case you couldn't recognize it. That's a gift from my daughter Erica, who can always count on her to buy me some cool earrings around Christmas time. I guess I'm going to insert a couple of pictures right here just for my FOs, my finished objects, because I don't think I have any new ones that I have not given away. Which over the holidays I knitted 2 dog sweaters. One for my son and his girlfriend's dog, named Hecate. She's a bicolored poodle, standard poodle. She's super cute. She's rusty and white. Anyway, I'll put a couple of pictures in of her right here. And I also made a really cute little plain sweater for my neighbor's dog upstairs. I guess I must be missing Monty because, you know, yeah, I'm missing Monty, little dude. So it was nice to be knitting dog sweaters for other dogs. So I still miss them a lot, but I carry on, and I'm already planning my next dog. If you have any good suggestions for dog breeds, let me know, because it looks like I'm probably going to have to get a purebred for once. I never do that, but I don't see that there's much choice. There aren't any rescue dogs around, from what I can tell. Although I figure if I wait another few months, there might be plenty of rescue dogs, because people will be like, oh, I got a dog when there was a pandemic and now I have to go back to work. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But Dave and I will be retired at the same time. So if we wait till next year, we'll have time to train a puppy, and it might be really fun to have a puppy. So we'll see. So that's a little bit of a digression there. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed those pictures of the dog sweaters. I used this sweater pattern called Perfect Fit Dog Sweater on Ravelry. And it's great because you just measure your dog, put in the measurements, and it helps you calculate the number of stitches you need to cast on, etc. So it's a pretty good standard dog sweater, and you can do anything you want. Like I put some color work online, but you could do whatever you want and just make it as fun as you want. So I recommend that. That's probably the 4th time I've used that pattern now. And okay, so next I'm going to talk to you about my whips. My biggest one, the one I've gotten the furthest with, is my gorgeous painting chevrons by Stephen West. Do you see that? Look at that beauty, huh? And it's getting pretty big, right? I only have about, I don't know, 6 more feet to do or something. No, I don't know how many. I'm just going to keep going until I run out of yarn, I guess. I'm using this black yarn I had to buy new, and it's by Emily et Philomene, which is a local yarn dyeing company, I believe, here in Montreal. Not maybe not in Montreal, but at least in Quebec. And it's really lovely stuff. And the other is just scraps I had lying around. So I'm really enjoying this. It's super fun. Yeah, I just knit it in front of the TV. I probably add like 2 or 3 stripes every time I watch television. And it's pretty mindless. I mean, you still have to remember to do the decreases and increases, but it gets pretty, you get used to it. I still have to count my stitches though, because it's so easy to make a mistake, unfortunately. But I did take out all the markers because they were driving me crazy. I took those out early on. So that's a Stephen West pattern, and that's not my first Stephen West pattern. I think it's my 3rd or 4th, maybe. Yeah, my 4th one. I really like his pattern. Alrighty, so next thing I'm working on is this is called Dusk Till Dawn, and it's a scarf that I'm knitting. It doesn't look like a scarf really yet, but each end has like a tapered part, and then this will be straight for starting like right here. It goes straight up for, I don't know, quite a few, I guess 100, more than 100 rows, whatever that'll turn out to be. And then you switch colors to this, and then it's these are the ones I picked. This is Tinda from my Garden Gate sweater. I had all this left over. And this is leftover yarn from my son's vest that I made him last year. And that's Kilborn Woolen's Scout. And that's a really, really lovely, easy yarn to work with. I really like it. It's the kind of thing where you think, should I just make everything in this one yarn because it's so nice? It's just so, I don't know, it doesn't split really. It's very cozy. It's lovely yarn. So I made him a vest in that. I also made Erica, my daughter, a sweater in a dark blue of the same kind of yarn. It's just lovely. And so I'm going to add this one to the other end of the scarf, which is a cable section. And I'll insert a picture here. Or maybe I could just show it to you from my iPad. Yeah, maybe that's a better idea. It's by Sasha Heyer, who is known as Verona Knits on Instagram. Yeah, there we go. Here she is, and there, you can just see the two different colors there. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really cool. It's like, I figure for a scarf, well, the funny thing is, okay, I bought the yarn from Naomi Endicott. She is Humble Knits. She does dyeing. And I bought the original yarn that this pattern was inspired by. So the blue and the beige. And, but I just never got into, I never started it. But then my sister dropped by in December, a couple weeks before Christmas. She had business in Montreal. So she popped in for a distanced cup of coffee. And so I showed her, well, no, she started talking about knitting a scarf, like wanting a pattern for TV knitting. And I said, well, because she doesn't do a lot of knitting. She's mostly into rug hooking, actually. She's a very creative person. But anyway, she's a rug hooker, but she also knows how to knit. So I said, oh, well, I have this yarn here, and I hadn't really bought her much for Christmas or anything. So I just gave her this yarn and said, listen, you can knit the pattern that I was going to knit, or you can knit something super easy and straightforward. And because this is not particularly teething knitting, because you really have to pay attention. It's basically a Gansey pattern in the first part where you use knit some pearls to create a pattern. And it's great, but you really have to pay attention. So it's not so easy to knit in front of the television with that. But anyway, but in the end, she decided she was interested in trying this pattern. So we're both going to make it at the same time. And I guess do a little tiny family knit along. So I hope that works out. I started mine, as you can see. I finished the first sort of section. And now I'm heading into the long straight section. And I'm looking forward to this. Is going to be a super cozy little scarf. Well, not so little, probably quite big. I find that chart reading, even though I've done a lot of it, there's always something new or something that confuses me at first with every chart that I start looking at. So it takes a while to sort of like get it sunk in that this is how it works anyway. So, but it's definitely worth your effort. I think it'll be fun. All right, so that's my first whip. What else have I got? Yeah, and the nice thing is that I'm trying this year, as I did last year, really, to knit a lot from stash. Yeah, last year was pretty good. I mean, it helped that we were, in a pandemic, so it was a little harder to go shopping. And I'm not keen on buying yarn online because you can't see it, and that bothers me. Like, you can't really get the feel of it and get the real true colors and stuff like that. So I find that buying yarn online can be a scary process. So I guess that helped me to stick with stash yarn quite a bit. But anyway, yeah, so I'm doing that again this year, and that's why I'm happy that I'm making this scarf. I think if I had, so I did give away the yarn I was going to use for it, but then that gave me the chance to use this leftover yarn that I really like, and it's sitting there, and why not use it, right? And partly that's because I don't like the waste. Like, I think there's a lot of waste in our business. I mean, so a lot of people are like me who buy yarn, sometimes for a specific project, sometimes just because they love the yarn. And then they don't get it. My eyes are way bigger than my stomach when it comes to yarn, and I think I'm not alone. So this year, I will try to knit from what I have and try to keep, I think that the novelty, the excitement of buying new things is part of it, right? It's part of the joy of knitting. So it's the planning of things is almost more than the knitting. It's like, it's so fun to think about doing future projects. Anyway, but I know that I'm not a very fast knitter, really. So, and I tend to have 3 or 4 projects going at once, which means that finished objects are few and far between in that case, right? Which is fine as long as you're a process knitter and not a product knitter. But I think that my process knitting mind is in conflict sometimes with my product knitting mind. Because that's when I go and buy yarn for projects that I may never get to, or if I get to it, it's like way down the list, right? So I admire people who can really just buy yarn for the given project that they're about to do, and then that's it. But on the other hand, this year I was glad I had stash to go in and use, or I should say last year, 2020, it was, as I said, it was harder to shop. So I'm very happy that I actually have this nice little stash, which I can show you. Maybe I will pause this for a second and take a little video of my stash and stuff. This is my practice room, and also my stash room, and my little plant room. It's a very snowy day out there, and I'll just show you around the room. There's my beautiful Monty portrait drawn for me by my sister Nora, and all my other various things on the wall, quoting Shakespeare, my bulletin board where I just tack things up randomly that I think I want to look at, and that's about it. And over here, music stuff, music stand, old coffee maker that shouldn't really be there. And there's my new ring light that my daughter gave me for my birthday, along with this great tripod, which I've got my camera up on. And anyway, things are looking up for old Viv. All right, back to the regular programming. Oh wait, I gotta show you my stash for real. Here we go. See? It's not that big. I could knit all that in one lifetime, surely, as long as it's long enough. I think it's not so bad. Okay, back to the program. I hope you enjoyed my little tour of my my space here. It isn't quite what I'd like it to be. It's a bit disorganized and there's too much stuff in it. But it does feel like it's kind of me, and I enjoy being in this room. This used to be my son's bedroom, and but after he moved out, we made our bathroom bigger, so we made this room smaller. And it's not really, I mean, I don't know what the next person's going to do with it. It's such a small, crazy little L-shaped room. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I kind of love it, actually. So I was hoping to do my podcasting mostly from here, now that I have the proper lighting that's going to help. Yeah, so I'm definitely into knitting from stash, like I said. And the next thing that I'm knitting is also from stash. And this is a ziggurat sweater by Asa. Let me just check what her name is and what the pattern is called, because it's the what is it? I can't even pronounce it. It's called Stjärnskud. If that is close to the right pronunciation, I'll be shocked. But anyway, it's this woman, Asa Tricosa, which Tricosa sounds like it's probably a made-up name, like because it sounds like tricot in French, so I assume it means something to do with knitting. But maybe that is her real name. But anyway, she does this type of sweater construction called the ziggurat. Ziggurat. So like cigarette, I guess, but it doesn't mean that at all. It's Z-I-G-G-U-R-A-T. I'll write it down here. Anyway, it's a super little cute pattern, which I got free from being a KnitStars subscriber. And yeah, so I decided to try it out on this little sweater, which I with this yarn that I have it from my stash, and it's a Cascade Heritage Wave, and it's kind of a crazy yarn. It's red and gray, kind of variegated strangely, and I wasn't quite sure what I would end up doing with it, but I thought, well, just to try out this method, and I understood from the pattern that I could do a whole little sweater, like a newborn size, with one ball of yarn. So that's what I'm hoping, although I'm a little worried we'll run out. But I figure if I run out, I'll at least get the sleeves done. So I left the body on needles and switched to the sleeves. So I'll get the sleeves done. And because of the way it's variegated, you see the sleeve. It's obvious where the sleeve starts there. So it's all going to be a little kind of crazy. But you know what? Babies don't really care. And you know what? It's going to be for my grandchild. I know, I got a grandchild coming. I can't even believe it. My son and his partner are going to have a baby in July. So that's one reason I'm knitting this. Although when I first started this, did I even know she was pregnant? I can't remember now. But anyway, I'm very excited. It's super cute, and it's a cute, okay, the method is really great. So check her out on Ravelry, because you start at the top and you don't cut the yarn at all, and yet you get these set-in looking sleeves. It's all one piece, just like the cocoa knits method, except with the cocoa knits method, you have to cut the yarn a whole bunch of times around the neck. You know, you do everything in little pieces, whereas this, she's figured out a way to not have to cut the yarn at all, except when except to start the sleeves, and that's it. So you get like basically, well, except that I went off, I cut the yarn to switch over to the sleeves, but normally you wouldn't have to do that, and it'd be like 6 ends to weave in. 1, 2, 4 ends to weave in, I guess. No, 6, I guess. 6. But anyway, that's not too many for a sweater. With set-in sleeves, I should say. Okay, so that's a really fun little knit. She has a lot of different versions of that cigarette sweater, lots of variations. And I bought a couple of her patterns because I think I'd like to try them out one day. Of course, as I said, my eyes are way bigger than my stomach. So who knows what I will do. But here's another one of hers that's called Arananha. And that's her in the picture. He's a tricosa. Quite like that. But we'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of things I'd like to knit, right? Come on, let's get serious. There's only a certain amount of time that we can knit. What's in here? I think those are it. So that makes 1, 2, 3. And I'm about to start another one because I'm swatching for the Lanzolu by Jennifer Beal. When you're going to be knitting a sweater in the round, it's a good thing to have a swatch in the round. But usually people do these swatches where they do the front and then they string the yarn at the, so they don't have to knit quite so much, But I hate knitting those things, so I thought, well, I'll knit a proper little tube with enough stitches that will make a proper swatch. And luckily, one of the best gifts I got this Christmas was this new set of ChiaoGoo shorties, which is really great. Actually, I guess it's more for my birthday present because my birthday is 3 days after Christmas and I turned 60, so it's a big one. Anyway, so my best friend Linda gave me this set. So you get, it goes from 3.5 millimeter to 5 millimeters. So it's not a ton of sizes, but you get 2 different lengths of the tips. So you've got 2-inch and 3-inch tips. And I think this is such a cute little container. I mean, what? The adorbs. Okay, so yeah, it comes with 3 different, gives all these little doodads. They always send you a few of these. Pins and markers and caps for the needles. And a little stitch gauge. And 3 different sizes of cord. So there's a 5 and 6 and 8-inch cords. So it's pretty small, but you could probably use, well, I'm pretty sure they'd be interchangeable with the bigger cords that ChiaoGoo makes, I would think. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good little set. And I'm really enjoying using them on this swatch. I'm not sure I'll be that excited about using the 2-inch tips, but the 3-inch tips are pretty decent. They're fine. Now, my issue with this swatch is that I'm not getting the proper gauge. It's supposed to be 23 stitches per 4 inches, and I'm getting something like 25 in this colorwork section. I'm also getting a slightly tighter gauge on the stockinette, but not as much as on the, not as tight as on the color work, where I've actually gone up in needle size. So I started with a 3 point, I wrote it down anyway, thank goodness. It was either 3.5 or 3.75. And then I switched to 4 for the color work, and it's still too tight. And it's funny because it really doesn't look tight. It looks, I don't know, it looks less tight than the stockinette. And yet unless my eyes deceive me, which is possible, it's just too tight. Anyway, so, but on the other hand, I like the fabric it's making. So I switched to 4.5 just to see. I'm doing a bit more of a swatch at the top here, just to see whether what it looks like. I think 4.5 is going to be too loose. It's just not going to look good. So I'm probably going to have to do some math, and it's going to take a lot. But thank goodness Andrea at Fruity Knitting did all the work for me. No, not quite, but she did a lot of explaining of this pattern. So if you want to check her out, it's episodes 103 through 105 where she works on the Lanzolu. And I recommend those highly. I'm sure most of you watching already know about Fruity Knitting. She and Andrew have done 110 episodes of really great content for knitters. And right now they're going through a really rough time because Andrew has brain cancer. He had a brain tumor, which was, I think, inoperable. So, they haven't given up. They're at. She recently put out a health bulletin. In fact, it was just today. I think today's the 16th. So she put out a bulletin to tell us how he's doing, and it's not great. But they put him in she brought him to a special clinic in the south of Germany where they live, and they're putting out a little. She was asking for donations towards his treatment because I guess it's quite expensive. So yeah, if you're not already a patron or you'd like to give them us a donation, even a small donation. If a lot of people give a small donation, it really adds up. So I'm already a patron, but I might give them another one, lump sum kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty rough for them, and I feel like we're all kind of we all look at them as almost like friends because. We watch them all the time, and they're such happy, and I don't know, they bring a lot of joy into our lives, and at least they do my life. I find them very helpful, and their episodes are always so well done. Anyway, that's the Fruity Knitting podcast, so do check them out if you haven't already. Anyway, so getting back to my Lanzolu, Jennifer Beal is also doing a knit along this year of all her patterns, which she did last year as well. So this year I'm bound and determined that I'm going to knit one of her patterns, and I guess it's got to be this one because I got all the yarn for it. I just have to figure out the changes that I have to make. Anyway, it takes quite a bit of math to figure it all out, but I will sit down and do it. I think I can. All right, so moving on. Next segment, mending. I know, if you're like me and you've been knitting for quite a while, you have things that would start wearing out. Socks being one of the first culprits, right? Okay, during the holidays, since my son Travis and Allison, they brought their things that I had knitted for them that needed mending. One was a pair of Travis asked me to fix a scarf that he likes that is not even handmade, but I'd fix it anyway. All I had to do really was cut the very edge off, so I didn't have to try to undo the bind off, which would have been too hard. So then I just picked up the stitches. I just unraveled a bit, picked up the stitches and bound off. Like he just lost, you know, a half an inch of scarf, and it's just a plain scarf, so it was very easy. So anytime you have something like that, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Undoing a bind off of something that's been sitting there for a while can be really annoying and difficult. So so that's why cutting it off is sometimes a good option. Now, oh, okay, so after I fixed that, I also fixed a sweater I made for him, which I'll put a picture of the sweater before and after I shrank it, which I shrank it, which I saw in another episode that I've done. But anyway, I didn't shrink it, sorry. Travis and Allison put it in the wash. One of them put it in the wash. And luckily, it still kind of fit him. It was a bit too tight and it was a bit short in the arms, but he wore it anyway. And of course, now the elbows are all wearing out. So I reinforced the elbows with some of the leftover yarn that I had, which wasn't very much. And then what did I do after that? Yeah, and then I added some length to the sleeves, but I didn't have the right yarn. So I found this other yarn I had, sort of similar kind of yarn, but it's beige instead of brown. Anyway, so he's got, and weirdly, his sleeves were 2 different lengths, and I don't know whether that came from my original knitting or from some strange thing that happened during the shrinkage. But anyway, so he's got one sleeve that's got this much of a white border or a beige border, and the other one is only this much. He doesn't care. He's very knit worthy, and he's very forgiving. And especially these days, he'll wear that around the house to keep him warm. That's for sure. But it made me think, oh God, I gotta knit him a new sweater. But again, eyes bigger than stomach. I can't do everything, so it'll be a while before I get to that. But I do want to knit him another sweater. Okay, another thing that I mended. Where is it? Oh, I knitted. I've done a lot of this kind of thing, which is basically just very sort of cursory mending of heels, you know, nothing fancy. I just get in there and try to reinforce the whole. You have to create a sort of woven fabric there. You know, you go this way a bunch of times, and then you go this way a bunch of times, especially if you have an actual hole. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna last a little bit longer, and I think it's worth it. It's like, it took me a long time to knit this silly little sock, so I might as well. And you know, I've got so many nice pairs of socks. Like, look at this nice pair here. And it has I haven't got it around to it, but there's the hole. There's the culprit. And I'll have to do the same sort of thing. It's pretty, this is pretty felted. I don't know whether I'll do it. So, but now, one thing that I really put this off, and I wasn't sure if I was going to bother, but I decided to patch up my hearth slippers. This is a great pattern by, what's her name? Diana Walla. And this is a real patched, like, stash pair of slippers that I made, and I must say it's I love knitting these. They're very fun to knit, and I would recommend it highly, but I make sure you use really sturdy yarn, because I didn't for this. I used some yarn that was Briggs and Little with some nylon in it, and I think that would have been great had I used it for everything. but I ended up using some other yarn that probably doesn't have any nylon in it, and so that's what happened with the holes. Because I made a similar pair for my neighbor upstairs, and she still doesn't have any holes, and I wore them. I mean, I made them around the same time. So, and I think hers were made entirely with the Sprigs and Little yarn. So, definitely worth going for a sturdier yarn. But anyway, I'm really loving having these back in rotation. And next time that they spring holes, I might end up just making another pair. But until that happens, I'm good. Okay, the next mending project that I have is my Birkin. My beautiful Birkin. Which I have to say is, it's not the best fitting sweater I have, but I just love that colorwork yoke so much. So what happened with this is that it wore out a bit at the cuff here. So I put the stitch marker into a couple of the stitches that were loose. And I think what I'm going to have to do, I'll try to undo the bind off, but if it doesn't work, I'm just going to cut a bit, like a very thin bit at the top here, and then undo a couple of rows, because I happen to have a fair bit of leftover yarn of that kind, which is Brooklyn Tweed Loft. Now, this is not a strong yarn. Okay, a lot of people have trouble with it breaking during knitting. I did not have that problem really. I think it might have happened once, but it obviously is fragile, okay? Because I don't think you could say that I've worn this so many times that it should already be wearing out at the cuff. I'm a little disappointed in that, but I might end up just adding a whole bunch more cuff, because I kind of think it'd be nicer if these were a bit longer. They're supposed to be 3/4 length, I guess. But I would like maybe for it to be a little longer. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to do, and it's not going to be difficult or anything. And everything else seems to be okay. It's a good idea to look at your knits once in a while and examine under the armholes and things like that to see if anywhere needs to be reinforced, because if you can get to it before it creates a real hole or before it breaks, then it's just easier to do the mending. There's this whole movement even to show mending that is obvious. What do you call it? Visible mending, that's what they call it. Hi everyone, I'm back after loading up my camera's battery again and changing my outfit to basically to get to the end of the episode. I'm almost there. I was just talking about visible mending and how I think that it's kind of a neat way of prolonging the life of your clothes and giving them another artistic angle, some more creative life. And I think that's always a good thing. And although I hesitate to mend my socks sometimes because it's just such a boring thing to do, I also kind of think that it's nice to have socks that you didn't have to spend days knitting and put them back in rotation, So I'm going to keep doing it as much as I have time for, which is actually a lot sometimes now. Yeah, and I'm going to try this kind of fun sort of thing. I mean, this is kind of the kind of thing I did on Travis's sweater, was add a different colored cuff. And in fact, I did it in crochet because I was only going to really just kind of add a little bit. I thought, well, a little crocheted edge might look nice, And then I just kept going because he wanted it longer. So I just thought, I'll keep going. So he's got a crocheted edge in a contrasting color, 2 different lengths on his sleeves, which I think is pretty fun. But that sweater is soon to finish its lifespan. And I will get on another one, but maybe not this birthday, which is coming up in like 2 weeks. His birthday. He'll have to wait another year, maybe. It's amazing how long it takes me to knit a sweater, especially when I've got that Lancelot on in my queue. In case you're wondering what my new outfit is this is I believe it's Joji Locatelli who did the 3-color cashmere shawl a few years ago. That's what this is. And this is my Sunshine Coast sweater that originally was a pullover, and I turned it into a cardigan. I can put the episode up where I talk about that in the corner. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have learned something and found it interesting. And please like and subscribe, and pass on this episode to a friend if you think they might enjoy it. All right, so happy knitting, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.